I want to welcome you all into this wonderful hour recovery TV, and I'll be here with us today. I'm here with us today with Sharon, and we'll be taking us on the next things that we are discussing before on uh, skills or recovering skills, and today we'll be dealing with exercise. So I will be bringing in Sharon right now, and Sharon will be talking to us. Sharon, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Um, we'll be uh, hearing from Sharon today on exercise. She spoke to us in a very uh, convincing way last week on other things we can do to bring about recovery. And I'll bring her in right now as she speaks to us uh, on this broadcast. So, Sharon, I'm bringing you in right now. Sharon, you
Hi,
are
hello
live?
everyone. Hi. It's good to be back here with you all, and
Yeah.
we have a really nice program set up for you this week. So, as you all know, on last week we were speaking on the coping skills. So, we're talking
Yes.
about yeah, we're talking about 10 coping skills to help prevent relapse. And we've been going over these 10 coping skills over the last few weeks. Um, so, what we want to do is continue on this week. And this week, we're going to be on number 7, which is exercising regularly.
Yeah.
And so, we want to continue on. We want to go over the previous coping skills that we've covered. Number 1 was being honest with yourselves and others. Number 2, learning to relax in any situation. Number 3 was keep a daily journal and gratitude list. Number 4, develop a strong support network with other recovering addicts. Number 5, avoid high risk situations where you are likely to relapse. Number 6, help other addicts. And we're here today with number 7, exercise regularly. So, when we talk about regular exercise, why is it important to exercise? So, we know that many people who abuse drugs it, on a daily basis, or not even drugs, because one of the key things that we talk about here is that addiction is not just about drugs. And I can't emphasize that enough. Addiction is not just about drugs. Addiction is about the obsession and the compulsion to use anything on a regular basis with the intent sometimes of just escaping our natural day-to-day life. It's an ability to escape our reality. And when we do so, we do that at the detriment of our own well being and oftentimes the well being of our family, friends, and co workers, anybody that really gets in our way, anybody that comes across our path. Because when it's at its worst, the only thing we can really think about is ourselves. And so that's why we talk about addiction. It's not just something that affects the individual, but it is a family disease. Sometimes you may hear it say it's a family disease because it affects the whole family. And most of us know, if anybody has ever dealt with a major illness, cancer, um, sickle cell, diabetes, just to name a few, you know that it affects the whole family when one member is sick. And that's the same thing with addiction, because it affects everybody in the family, because most of the focus end up being on that individual. And so the rest of the family oftentimes may become neglected. It's not always intentional. Even as kids, you realize that if you got a sibling that is sick, then the parents will focus more on that sibling, and then sometimes you as an individual becomes neglected, whether it's intentional or unintentional, and it happens. And then that individual that is neglected can feel that neglect, and somehow their life is affected as a result of that. So that's why we say addiction affects everyone. And so we know exercise is important because the daily use or an abuse of whatever the thing that we're addicted to, it end up wreaking havoc on both our emotional and physical well-being. One would think, well, how does, say for instance, gambling wreak havoc on my health? Well, you're not eating properly when you're stuck in a casino, and when you're at the rate or at the racehorse, or if you're in the crap house. Most often, we're not going to sleep, we're not going to eat, we're not going to take care of our mental health, because exercise also affects us mentally when we do exercise. If I'm shopping all the time, I'm at the store, I'm online focusing on this tiny screen, I'm not exercising my mind in a positive way. If I'm eating, I'm surely not exercising. I'm not out there walking. I'm not, the endorphins in my mind aren't being activated. If I'm using drugs, oh my God, I'm definitely not doing any exercising. The most exercise I'm getting is taking that hand from my from the substance to my body. That's the most exercise I'm going to get. So exercise is very important. So we know that it is important to repair the psychological and the physical damage of chemical dependency, as well as the damaged mind-body connection. So I'm reading this. Exercise and chemical dependency treatment serves many purposes, but there are some primary benefits one can get from exercise during substance abuse treatment and recovery. So this is focused on substance abuse, but the same thing applies to any abuse, any dependency that we have created on anything else. Whether even at work we know can be an addiction. And if I'm in the office all day long working, or at whatever your job may be, if you're working all day, then you have no time to exercise. So let's talk about the first thing that exercise does. Exercise relieves and reduces stress. It relieves and reduces stress. Exercise has been shown to alleviate both physical and psychological stress. Tension builds in our bodies when we're at work, during everyday interactions, and even when we're watching television. Yeah, I can understand that, because sometimes I get so into what's going on TV, and I can literally feel my body tensing up. There's a moment when something is getting ready to be revealed, or something is getting ready to happen, and I'm almost like I'm in the action on the screen, and I'm sitting there and I'm really tensed up. So imagine just watching a TV show for a couple of hours and you're into it. Have you ever watched a football game or a basketball game and it's down to the last quarter, and your team is losing or your team is winning? Either way, and you are so physically, not just mentally and sometimes emotionally into that game, but physically. Now imagine having a lot of money riding on that game. Imagine the psychological damage you're doing to yourself, because now you're physically, mentally, and emotionally into that. Your body is actually taking a beating, and you're just sitting on the couch. So sometimes we don't think about that. So that's the important. So doing everyday interactions, even when we're watching television. This tension can come from having poor posture at work or having a bad interaction with a coworker. Moving your body alleviates this tension and allows you to get rid of any negative emotion you have been keeping in. Focused exercise uses both physical and emotional energy that might otherwise find unhealthy ways of escaping. So, exercise relieves and reduces stress. So, as we exercise, and if you notice the last part of that sentence I just wrote and read, it says focused exercise uses both physical and emotional energy other that might otherwise find unhealthy ways of escaping. So if you paid attention to some of the other coping skills, we're talking about unhealthy ways of escaping. So exercise actually helps us find healthy. It's a healthy relief system. It actually helps us to find a healthy means of releasing the stress, of releasing the tension in our body that we may otherwise decide to use in another way. Like the ethics we talked about in one of our previous broadcasts. The ethic of, you know what? I am stressed, I'm bummed out. Let me go get me one. Or let me go do this. And everybody's this is something different. Your this today may be, let me go smoke a joint so I can relax. Well, that form of relaxation opens the door to so much more damaging behavior. When you can just say, well, you know what, let me go for a walk, or let me go and just walk on a treadmill, or let me go exercise, even if it's just some jumping jacks, some push ups, or I don't know, treadmill, something, some form of exercise. The other thing I want to say, exercise doesn't have to be strenuous and it doesn't have to be overwhelming. Exercise can be something as simple as walking up and down the bleachers at your child's high school, just walking up and down the bleachers at the high school, or walking around the field. We can create exercise in some simple manners that will help us. It doesn't have to be, because oftentimes we look at exercises when we hear people say, I'm going to the gym, and then we see all the big machines, and we see all this fancy clothing and all the money. Exercise can be inexpensive and it can be fun. It can be just getting your good friend, your good girlfriend, or your guy friend, and you guys going and walk around the park. Oftentimes I got a friend of mine that we go and we walk around the park, and we just walk and we've exercised because we've walked for 30 minutes and we talk and we do the same thing we would do if she called me up and we talk on the phone for 30 minutes. But now we've incorporated in our conversations walking, and while we walk, we talk, and now we've both gotten some exercise in. We've released our endorphins, and I'm going to get to this later on, but those endorphins that we release are actually, I'm sorry, it's something on my eye, but those endorphins are actually helping to repair the damage that we've done. But we'll get to that in a minute. So that's exercise is very important. The other thing that exercise does is exercise naturally and positively alters your brain chemistry. Here we go. When you exercise, your body releases endorphins, which create a natural high. These are the same endorphins your body releases while you abuse substance. However, abuse of drugs causes an imbalance that interferes with a person's ability to feel pleasure, happiness, and satisfaction. Dedicated physical activity during treatment or while we're in recovery will help you reintroduce natural levels of endorphins in your system. This not only helps you feel better, but reteaches our brain that it is capable of regulating endorphins. What we are doing is recreating our brain in a healthy manner so our brain knows that we can take our brain and we can actually help reintroduce natural, not those induced levels of endorphins that the brain, the chemicals from the drugs did, or the levels of endorphins that were created during our, I say drug induced, because I have a book that I read, and in that book, and where it talks about drugs, I have drugs and I put the equal sign next to it. And I put any manifestation of what the drugs do. So for me, that means gambling. That means food when I use it as a substitute for the drug. That means it could be sex if it's used for the substitute of the drug. That means spending a lot of money, because whenever I'm using or abusing something, then I'm creating the same kind of reaction in my body that drugs create, because natural behavior will not create the same type of endorphins at the rate that it does when I'm abusing a behavior. So when I go shopping, and I'm doing it on a natural basis, I'm going shopping today, me and my good girlfriend, my spouse, your spouse, or whatever. When we go shopping, yeah, the endorphins are coming in. I'm happy. But when I overstimulate my body because I'm doing it at an abusive and an excessive rate, the level of endorphins that I'm flooding my brain with are just as equal to the amount of the person who's using drugs. And so that's why I say manifestation. The person that is using porn as a means to masturbate constantly is putting way more endorphins in their body than the man and woman who's just having sex, maritally having sex. Somebody that's having sex 20 times a day because they are overstimulating their brain is going to have way more endorphins than somebody that's naturally just having sex. So when we're talking about exercise being able to teach my body and reintroduce natural, there's a thing as natural levels, and then there's a thing as unnatural. And so when we talk about the unnatural levels, those are levels that are being introduced due to an unnatural use of whatever it is that I'm putting in there. So we want to keep on, because I don't want to sound like I'm the authority on what is natural and unnatural, because I'm not the authority on that. I can only speak from my level of experience. So what I don't want to do on this show is come in here and sound like an authority on anything that I'm not an authority on, because I'm not here to make a judgment on anyone. I'm not here as a specialist. I'm here as someone speaking from a level of experience in a lot of what I'm talking about. And I'm talking from my own personal experience. Do I have personal experience with everything I've ever said on here? Probably not 100% of what I've said, but 85% of it, yes, I have personal experience. So, that being said, the other thing is exercise is meditation in motion. So, the Mayo Clinic has described exercise as meditation in motion, meaning by concentrating on the physical, we can experience the psychological and emotional benefits of meditation. Through movement, we can refocus our thoughts on our own well being and forget, at least briefly, all that is going on in our lives. You may leave your workout with a clearer mind, feeling more rejuvenated and optimistic. Finding this clarity within chaos can make recovery more manageable. And I find that to be true because I do. Even though I said there are many ways of working out, I have been to the gym, and when I'm there and I'm focused there, it takes my mind outside of anything else that may want to crowd my mind at that moment. So when they talk about meditative emotion, because meditating is about clearing your mind. And so when I'm exercising, even if I'm not at the gym, even when sometimes if I go on a walk by myself, it gives me an opportunity to just take deep breaths, breathe, walk, and I can focus on nature because I can focus on what's out my surroundings rather than allow my mind to be bombarded with all other thoughts that goes on in my mind at times. Because I'm telling you, sometimes my brain is so crowded. I mean, it becomes so crowded with everything else that's happening. So I want to go to this last thing about exercise. It improves your outlook. Those who exercise regularly report increased feelings of self-confidence and optimism. And when we exercise, the one good thing about exercise, you feel healthier, and the healthier I feel, and the better I look. Because let me tell you, when I exercise, not only does it improve my outlook, it improves my figure, and it improves the way I feel about myself. Because when I do esteemable things, my esteem rises. I was told that for a long time ago by my sponsor, because I told you I'm involved in a 12-step program. And because I'm involved in a 12-step program, I have a sponsor. And that's kind of touching on next week, because next week's number 8 is talking about getting a sponsor. And I have a
So
sponsor. And
where
one of
you
the
are
things,
talking about sponsors, Tasharon, people that are listening to us right now, who will you define as a sponsor?
well, a sponsor is somebody that has been in the process of, for 12-step programs. A sponsor is somebody that has been in this process ahead of me, that helps me with the 12 steps. A sponsor is like a guide. You think about going to, like, if you've never been to a foreign country, when you get to that foreign country, in order to be able to navigate yourself through that country, you get a guide, right? Because you've never
Yeah,
been
yeah,
there.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
go get a guide to help you navigate the country. Well, that's what a sponsor is. If you've never been in the recovery process, then you don't really know your way around it. So you get a sponsor, and that person will guide you through this process. That's the person that, because for many of us that are in recovery, we have not had the ability to make really great decisions on our own. And because we haven't been able to make great decisions, then we go to somebody to, not that a sponsor makes your decisions for you, but a sponsor is the person that you at least run your thoughts by. Just like
Yeah,
with a pastor in the church, sometimes you come up with a great idea, but you want to run it by somebody to
yeah,
make sure it is as great as you think it is.
yes.
Because think about this, like, I've heard
They are
people
just
share,
like
like,
coach.
yeah, like a coach, like you getting ready to go to a convention, and
Yeah,
you think it's a great idea to take your rent money and go buy 3 or 4 different outfits and pay for this nice hotel suite. And you may say, well, sponsor, I want to go to the convention. I'm gonna buy, I got these 4 outfits because I want to look good, and I got a nice suite. Your sponsor may say, well, but if you do that, where are you going to live when you come back? Because you may not be able to think that far ahead. All you're
yeah,
thinking about is, but it's a good thing I'm going to a convention. I'm going to be around a lot of recovering people. It's good for my recovery, because you can't see past the pleasure of doing what you want to do. So that's what a sponsor helps you to do.
I get you. So that is
A,
part
a
of what the
sponsor,
exercise does. Exercise help to keep your thinking and learning and judgment skills sharp as your age.
Yes, and especially at yeah, and that's another thing. Let me say that as we get older too, as we get older, exercise helps us because as our body gets older, our bones become softer, brittle. Exercise will help us in the aging process. I saw a video on YouTube. I think it was YouTube and Facebook, as a matter of fact, and it was a lady that was 80 years old and she started exercising and weightlifting and stuff when she was in her 60s. And I was amazed because in my mind, I'm thinking, this lady is healthier than I am. She had a body that was out of this world. And I know that sounds strange for some people for me to say that, but I was so envious of her. She had muscles, she had a six pack, she could deadlift like 100 and something pounds. And I'm like, whoa. I do like this, and I'm like, okay, you see this? I'm like, oh my God, this is flabby. It's time for me to start doing because I did COVID. I'm gonna blame it on the pandemic. So now the gym is about to open back up.
Pandemic did not allow you. The
Yeah,
pandemic
that's
has shut down all
pandemic
the
flag.
gyms.
That's a pandemic flag there. But so I'm like, you know what? Exercise is really good for us because
Yeah,
in it
I mean,
because think about like, look, this affects
yes,
my self-esteem. If I
I
have to
get you.
reach and that starts shaking, I feel bad. So
Well, we
exercise
can
helps.
at least for now, we can blame that on COVID.
See, I can blame it on COVID now, but it increases our self-worth and our self-esteem. Now I know I know whose I am, so I know who I am. But imagine if you feel good about yourself and then you get like this. I do like this, and it's like, oh my God, yes. Because I am his temple. I am his temple, right? If
Yes,
I am
yes,
his temple, then do I
we have
want to
to
be
take care of that temple.
do I want to be a well preserved, shiny temple, or do I want to be a temple that looks like a broken down shack?
Well,
Okay, what kind of
that goes to strengthen what you have been saying. That exercise strengthens your bone and muscles.
yes,
Exercise it strengthens your bones and muscles, and that's why you can see regular exercise can help kids and teenagers build strong bones, and later in life it can also help to slow the loss of bone density.
amen. Yes, it can.
Yes,
It
that
helps
come
with
with
the aging
age.
process.
Yes, that is, exercise help to slow the loss of bone density that come with age. So doing exercise strengthening your muscles activities and can help you to increase or maintain your muscle mass and strength. So I'm just saying that to strengthen what you have said.
Yes, yes. So exercise is very important, and we just need to know that we're never too old to exercise. And this is beyond just being in recovery because I know we talk about recovery a lot here, but this is for anyone that's watching. Exercise is important and it can help extend your life. Exercise not only is good for those individuals that are in recovery, but exercise can help to even fight off diseases and sicknesses as well. And
Yeah,
exercise is good for people that
it
are.
helps everybody.
Yes, because exercise is even good if you're in pain. And I never knew that. I didn't know until I had to go to physical therapy. At one time, I was injured. And I was like, well, I'm in pain. Why do y'all want me to go to? She said, do you understand that when you're in pain, that's the best time to start to do some exercise? She said, because if you're in pain and your knee is bothering you, and you sit and you do nothing, she says, do you know that helps prolong the pain? But when you put that in motion, that helps to shorten the time frame that pain will be there, and it's best to exercise it. And I was like, wow, that is amazing. So
And that's
that's
very, what you have said is very, very true. Because I also discovered that it can help to reduce the risk of heart disease, which is killing so many people right now. Exercise will strengthen your heart and improve your blood circulation.
Yes.
And the increase of blood flow raises your oxygen level in your body.
Yes.
And they helps to lower the risk of heart disease, such as high cholesterol, and we see as and thing that has to do with artery disease and heart attack. Regular exercise can also lower your blood pressure. So, which will be very, very helpful because we've been talking about a lot of things in terms of supernatural, but like the supernatural can work better because, like I said last week, we are a spirit in walking in a human vessel.
Amen.
So
Amen.
God made that vessel for the spirit to walk inside it. So if you are spiritless, you have no use to us on this earth. Because
Amen.
now, if you are spirit now, without your human body, you won't be able to you won't be able to appear on this screen.
God bless.
Thank you. Because there won't be a form to you. Everybody will be hearing your voice and they will not see you and they'll be wondering what kind of magic are we doing on this program.
Exactly. And that's what I meant when I said, like if God puts us here and he uses this physical being body as a temple, then what kind of temple do we want to be? Do we want to be the temple that looks like the Taj Mahal? Or do we want to be the temple that looks like a little raggedy shack down by the riverside? So, but that addiction is a mental disease. And so it's considered, if you go to the DSM, it's categorized under mental illness. And so we know that exercise improves our mental health by reducing anxiety, depression, and negative mood, and by improving self-esteem and cognitive functions. So it's also found to alleviate symptoms such as low self-esteem and social withdrawal. So exercise is very beneficial. It is very beneficial. Um, it helps your sleep. It gives you energy. It improves your resilience. It helps you when you're feeling exhausted. It's when you're feeling overwhelmed. Um, there is so much that it can do. It boosts your brain, your cognition. So you think about the fact that it boosts your brain and your cognition, and decreases stress. So when we think about diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia, think about how exercise can help to ward that off. So it's not just the benefit of addiction and recovery that can benefit. And if you really pay attention to this program, when we talk about this being recovery TV, yeah, the main focus is recovery from addiction. But I hope as you focus and as you listen in, we're talking about recovery. So we're talking about holistic recovery. We're talking about all forms of recovery here. So as we began this talk, and I think every week we probably as it have expounded, as we talk about each one of these coping skills, we began with recovery from substance and other addictive behaviors. But then we also have expounded on how each one of these topics can be utilized in so many different areas of life, and to beneficial to so many other individuals. So recovery as a concept, as a construct in itself, can be used by anybody. It can be used recovery when you think about the word recovery in itself, and it depends on how and where you want to apply it. The recovery, depending on where and how you want to apply recovery, When we think about recovery, and it's the act, process, or instance of recovering, the process of combating a disorder or a real or perceived problem, the process of combating a perceived problem, a perceived or a problem. When we're recovering from a problem, there are so many problems in society that needs combating. So when we're recovering from poverty, when we're recovering from social injustice, we're recovering from the abuses that are taking place in the world, we're recovering. So this is a recovery TV channel. So the
Good.
emphasis are on substance. The emphasis of this are on the different types of substance and chemical abuses that are taking place. That is our primary focus. Our primary focus is to save our young people, our children, on the onset, because if we teach them as children, we don't, it said it's better to teach a child than to try, and I may be paraphrasing this wrong, but it's better to teach a child than to change a man. Something, and Pastor
Better
can
it's better
probably
to
help me with that
is
quote.
it is easier to raise a child, to raise a strong child, than to repair a broken adult.
Right. So that's the emphasis. But we're talking about recovering. We're trying to recover lost souls. In the process of recovering lost souls, we're recovering them from a lot of different things. So Recovery TV channel wants this because I believe the Holy Spirit and God is going to have this channel. And when this becomes a channel that you're going to go home and you're going to turn your cable on, and just like you turn your TV to ABC, NBC, CBS, BET, TNT, people are going to be like, oh, I'm going to go home and watch the Recovery TV channel.
Yeah.
And once you change to that channel, you're going to see all different types of program on that channel. And they're going to all cover recovery in different aspects of it, because we're talking about the process and instance of recovering from real and perceived problems. We're going to be combating that. So,
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 Star
so
Sharon,
invite your friends to join us.
yes, Star Sharon,
Yes, sir.
as we begin to round up, I want us to give the people baby step way for exercise. Like
Baby
maybe
steps.
instead of going through a lift to go to the staircase.
Yeah, if you have steps in your house, maybe you just want